The winter of 1931 was one of the harshest Romania had seen in decades. But for Dinu Rossetti and his team of archaeologists, the freezing winds of Lake Snagov were a minor obstacle compared to the weight of the history they were about to uncover. They stood inside the stone walls of the Snagov Monastery, a place where time seemed to have stopped in the 15th century. Every step they took on the cold limestone floor echoed like a heartbeat in the silence of the crypt. They were here for one reason: to exhume a legend. For over 400 years, local folklore had maintained a singular, terrifying claim that the headless body of Vlad III, the man known to history as the Impaler, was buried directly beneath the main altar. The monks of the 1400s had allegedly hidden him there, fearing that if his enemies found the body, they would tear it to pieces. Rossetti's mission was not just academic, it was an attempt to come face to face with the man who inspired the myth of the vampire, to find the physical remains of a warlord who had held all of Europe in a grip of terror. As the heavy, dust-caked stone lid was finally pried open with iron bars, the team held their breath. They expected to see the glint of a royal sword, the remains of a velvet shroud, or the skeletal hand of a prince. But as the flashlights illuminated the bottom of the stone coffin, a collective gasp filled the room. The tomb was empty. There was no body, no bones, no jewelry. Only a few fragments of ancient pottery and soil remained. The Prince of Wallachia had vanished from his own grave. This wasn't just a failure of archaeology, it was the birth of a mystery that would haunt the world for another century. To solve the mystery of the empty grave, we must travel back to the chaotic final days of 1476. Vlad the Impaler was a man cornered by destiny. His reign had been defined by a brutal, uncompromising defiance against the Ottoman Empire. He had survived assassination attempts, years of imprisonment in Hungary, and the betrayal of his own brother, Radu the Handsome. But by December of 1476, his luck had finally run out in the frozen forests near Bucharest. The battle was a desperate, bloody struggle in the dark. Vlad led a small force of his most loyal soldiers against an overwhelming Ottoman patrol. It is here that history becomes a maze of contradictions. Some chroniclers suggest that Vlad was accidentally killed by one of his own men, who mistook him for a Turk in the fog of war. Others claim he was ambushed by a specialized hit squad sent by Sultan Mehmet II, who wanted the dragon dead at any cost. What we know for certain is the gruesome aftermath. Vlad was decapitated. His head was preserved in a jar of honey to prevent decay and rushed to Istanbul. There it was displayed on a high stake for all to see, a grim irony for a man who had made the stake his own personal signature. But the torso, the remains of the dragon, was left behind in the blood-stained snow. If the monks of Snagov truly recovered that body as they claimed, where did it go? Did it ever reach the monastery, or was the burial at Snagov a 500-year-old lie? Confused and frustrated by the empty tomb under the altar, Dinu Rossetti refused to give up. He ordered his men to dig deeper, to search every inch of the monastery's foundation. Just a few meters away from the primary site, they discovered a second, hidden grave. But what lay inside was even more baffling than the void they had found earlier. This second coffin contained bones, but they were not arranged with the respect due to a prince. The skeleton was found mixed with the remains of horses and covered in a rough, cheap fabric, the kind used for the lowest of commoners. For decades, this discovery was dismissed as a mistake, but modern forensic historians have a different theory. They believe this was a decoy grave, a 15th century insurance policy against grave robbers and Ottoman spies. If Vlad's followers feared his enemies would come looking for his remains to burn them or scatter them to the winds, they would have created a fake burial site. By placing a commoner's bones under the altar and hiding the real prince elsewhere, they ensured his eternal peace. But this only deepens the mystery. If Snagov was a decoy, then where is the real body? The answer may lie not in the earth of Romania, but across the sea, in the secret vaults of an Italian princess.
In 2014, the mystery moved 1,000 miles away to the sun-drenched, secret-filled streets of Naples, Italy. A group of researchers discovered a tomb in the Santa Maria la Nova church that defied all local tradition. It belonged to a woman named Maria Balsa, an exiled princess who arrived in Naples in the late 15th century. But Maria Balsa was not just any exile. She claimed to be the daughter of a Transylvanian warlord. The theory revolves around a bold rescue mission. Researchers suggest that Vlad was not killed in 1476, but captured and held for ransom. Eventually, Maria Balsa is believed to have smuggled her aging, broken father to Italy to give him a proper, secret burial. The tomb in Naples is covered in symbols that shouldn't be there, specifically the Order of the Dragon. Experts point out that the imagery is not Italian. It is the imagery of a Wallachian prince. When Italian authorities were asked for permission to open the Maria Balsa tomb, the request was met with silence. Why? What is Italy hiding? Is the man the world calls Dracula buried in the heart of a Catholic church in Naples? If his remains are there, it would mean that Dracula spent his final days not as a vampire in a castle, but as a forgotten king in a foreign land.
While we search for bones, modern science has found his blood. In 2023, high-tech analysis of Vlad's personal letters revealed a terrifying medical truth. Using mass spectrometry, scientists found proteins on the 500-year-old parchment that suggest Vlad suffered from a rare condition called hemolacria. This condition causes a person to cry literal tears of blood. Imagine the psychological impact on his enemies. A warlord on a battlefield, his face stained with red streaks, looking like a demon from hell. This wasn't folklore, it was biology. The proteins also showed that he suffered from severe respiratory issues and chronic skin inflammation. Vlad was a man in permanent, excruciating physical pain. His cruelty wasn't just political, it was perhaps a reaction to a body that was failing him every single day. He didn't just look like a monster, he felt like one. The realization that Dracula cried blood changes our perspective. It moves him from a supernatural myth to a tragic, broken human being. But to the superstitious people of the 15th century, medical conditions didn't exist. There was only God and there was the devil, and Vlad, with his bleeding eyes, was clearly the latter. Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula turned Vlad into a supernatural predator, but the real man was far more complex. In Romania, he is often seen as a national hero, a defender of the cross who kept the Ottoman tide at bay. To the rest of the world, he is the monster who impaled 20,000 people at Târgoviște. This duality is what keeps the legend alive. The empty tomb at Snagov only fed the fire of the vampire myth. If there is no body, people begin to wonder, did he ever really die? The lack of physical remains allowed the story to grow beyond history into the realm of the undead. But historians argue that Vlad's true power wasn't immortality, it was fear. He knew that if he could convince the world he was something more than human, he would never be forgotten. The mystery remains unsolved because the doors remain locked. There are whispers in the academic community about secret documents held in the Vatican archives, letters from papal legates who visited Vlad in prison. These documents might hold the final clue to where his body was taken. But like the tomb in Naples, these records are hidden from public view. Why the secrecy? Perhaps the truth is too dark, or perhaps the legend of Dracula is more valuable than the reality of Vlad Tepes. Whether it is the secret vaults of Rome or the unopened tombs of Naples, the dragon's final resting place is protected by the silence of the powerful. Some secrets are not meant for the light of day.
Vlad III, the Impaler, exists now as a shadow. He is a ghost in the history books and a monster in our nightmares. The empty grave at Snagov is the perfect monument for a man who belonged to the darkness. He is gone, but he is everywhere. He is in the mist over the Carpathian Mountains and in the crimson reflections of a sunset. The grave is empty because Dracula cannot be contained by stone or soil. He is a part of our collective consciousness, a reminder of the thin line between a hero and a monster. I am Algenib, and this is GriotVibe. Sleep well if the dragon allows it.